Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. So one of the things that I'm experiencing, and I know we are on a roller coaster ride emotionally in terms of how do we align ourselves to what's happening for as a movement, finding the path and the bridge toward the new earth. We're all on this roller coaster ride. And what I have been doing is that I've been trying to find a medium, to find a way for me to navigate a medium so that I am not always feeling like I'm being pulled this way and then next minute I'm being pulled that way. It is exhausting emotionally to have complete perfect elation and then 3 hours later you're beginning to crash, something comes in that you're feeling because I'm picking it up from the group body or I'm feeling some sense of, and what I'm noticing for me is, and particularly because I'm a seer and I can sense the future, I can feel some sort of ominous darkness coming. And it's not a comfortable feeling. It's like I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop. And I have no clarity as to what it is. I have simply a sense that something very uncomfortable, very difficult to process is about to happen. And I can feel it at the edge of my field and it's coming. And yet I don't have the peace of mind, the serenity, and the surrender enough for me to allow whatever it is to show up. It's a challenge for me. I don't know if any of you are experiencing this, maybe you're not, but it's a challenge for me to move and to find that middle ground. Because till I am completely surrender and I let go of my expectation and I allow myself to be in a complete state of acceptance, and I'm neutral to whatever it is that I'm perceiving, I will not see it. It will be just, because energy doesn't lie. My body already knows what it is, and my mind cannot process it, cannot understand it, and is having difficulty articulating what I'm feeling. And I know I've spoken about this before, but it's getting intense. And there are moments where I'm doing my regular practice, like myself, like a Capricorn, I'm moving through everything, I'm still doing it. But the depth or the release that I used to get, I'm not getting them. This is for the past week. I'm not getting there. I'm getting somewhere, but it's not to the same level. Because there's a part of me that feels the sense of something is not right. Something is coming and I cannot articulate yet exactly what it is. I have some clues that I've discussed before. As I said, there's the food shortage thing, which most of the planet is aware of, but I don't think it's just that. I think it's something bigger. I'm happy to see that a lot of the planetary leaders are taking actions on climate change. They have not gone far enough, but they're taking some actions, and they're trying to establish some sort so that the global temperature does not rise too high, so that we're not really making humanity extinct. So that certainly is a good thing. But I am picking up other things as well. I'm sensing, for example, that there is another pathogen of some kind. And it's not clear the timeline, although I did sense December was going to be critical. Maybe the breakout will happen then. And then there's going to be maybe pandemic by middle of next year. It's not clear yet. But these are the things that I'm beginning to pick up and I'm trying to process that are making an undertone of unease. No matter what I'm doing, that undertone is there. It just remains in the background. It's like that pitch and that sound that you get in your ear all the time, that there's a tone that you're hearing all the time. It's that background pitch. I can hear it, I can feel it. As far as energy is concerned, it's there. When I'm done with my meditation, I feel great, blah, blah, blah. Hours later, it's back again. And I feel in some ways that I have to be prepared. And I don't know if any of you are experiencing this, but I'm just sharing what my experiences have been, but specifically for the week that just went by. And energetically, it's kind of exhausting to keep bringing myself to the medium and to keep chasing, pushing that stuff away and saying, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect me. Every time it shows up, I go back into my practice, I surrender, I release all attachment and fear, and I release all attachment and I surrender to the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I keep repeating it over and over again. I keep letting go to allow myself to go into a different place. Whatever it is, I can tell you that 2022 is gonna be far worse than 2021. That part is clear. It's gonna be far worse. We have political and social unrest. We have all kinds of things that are going around. We have all crises that are burgeoning, and you can see this there. And they seem, if you're looking at a food or soup that's boiling, you're seeing multiple bubbles popping. And I know at some point it's going to start steaming and go so high that it will overflow, and we will begin to feel overwhelmed. My biggest concern is to be able to warn all of you ahead of time so that we can be prepared. That's my biggest concern. Again, I am not neutral enough yet. I don't have the clarity yet to understand it, but I know that 2022 is not going to be fun. Thanksgiving is coming up this weekend, and right after that we enter December, and the year in less than 5 weeks, 6 weeks, the year will be over. We're going to enter 2022, and there's stuff that just in the future horizon that feels to me extremely troublesome and extremely uncomfortable. And I'm sure you have peace and serenity, and if you stay in your gratitude and your blessing, you're going to be fine. I know that. But for me, that's a seer that's perceiving the edge or the perimeter of what's coming. It is highly, because whatever it is, it's penetrating, it's piercing through my field right now, just as energy, not as information, as knowledge, but just as an uncomfortable energy. Now, whilst this is going on, of course, I'm not like this 100% of the time. There are moments where I am in serious, powerful bliss. I surrender quite a bit. I happen to have had this week 2 people in my group that were challenged by COVID. And the COVID, one of them had to, it's husband and wife, a couple, one of them, and they were not vaccinated. One of them had to go because she was getting worse and worse. And to my suggestion, she happened to call a doctor to a telemedicine and did a session with her, and she qualified for what is called the monoclonal antibodies. And she went to the hospital and took it, and she's beginning to feel better. That was 2 days ago. Her husband had it mild, he's doing okay. She has pre-existing conditions, and she was not doing well. And so the worry, I know the worry about that this whole week, doing healing for them and all that, colored, and I had a couple of other crises as well with clients that colored my experience. I'm acknowledging this. But it's not just about my worry for them. It's about whatever that other thing is that I'm not perceiving yet. I am still working on it. I think it's going to get better as the days go by for this week coming. I'm hoping, I'm praying that there's going to be a denouement, there's going to be a turn where I will actually see it and I will actually know it, and it will allow for change and transformation to happen for me, and I will begin to feel at ease. I don't mind the bad news. Well, I do mind. I'm sorry, I'm lying. The problem with seeing is that when I see these things, why do I have to always be the person that tell people that the sky is falling? I feel like Chicken Little. I'm always the one saying that something is wrong. And instead I should, why do I always have to do this? I would much prefer to tell people things that are positive. Not that when I channel, I don't bring positive news. There are plenty of time where they are sending masters, but these things are so dramatic that when you say it, people look at you cross-eyed like you're crazy. I posted on Facebook the email that I sent out to all of you about the archons and everything else. And again, several people were like, you know, I know people were, the amount of people that usually comments on what I'm saying, I got not even a quarter of it, because people are not able to process when you're talking about fallen angels and people, energy that are trying to manipulate our emotions. People are not able to process or respond to it because they don't want to see it. They don't want to perceive it. They don't want to believe it. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's just that they are not, this is not a reality. This is not an information that they are willing to accept. I get this. And as a segue to this, I am writing chapter 5 of my book, the new book, The Third Path, subtitle, Finding Safe Passage into the New Earth. And I'm pushing through it, and then the information is coming in. This week, because of everything that happened, just passed, I was not really consistent. I think I wrote maybe 1 or 2 days, 2 days. The rest of the time I couldn't focus. There were too many things going on with my worries, with my students and my clients. I was unable to spend more time doing it. Hopefully this week, I will get back into it again and continue to write. And I want to make sure that by February or March or next year, if not by March at least, by the spring, that the book is out. Because I'm seeing the book as a way to kind of guide humanity. Not you, because you're in class every week and you're listening and you're co-creating, you're participating. I want to give the rest of the planet a roadmap, a way for them to find that safe passage, a way for them to begin to take a look at this information. And so, of course, the archons are in there. I wrote that chapter. That was chapter 4. And there are lots of other informations in there that are related to the progress and the understanding that I'm teaching you, but now for the rest of the world, and articulate in a way not to get too deep, but deep enough to allow people to begin to question, wonder, and hopefully plant a seed for it to extract, to grow, to germinate, and to blossom. So this is where I am. And by the way, I want to say as well, and since Thanksgiving is coming, had it not been for my need to teach you on a weekly basis, my need to give you information, my desire to share with you the clarity, the understanding that I know, I would not have the information that I'm sharing with you today. And for that, since it's a Thanksgiving week coming up, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for being in my life, because the universe does not give you what you want. If I wanted that information out of curiosity, because I wanted it for my own personal and selfish reason, I would not have received it. But the universe gives you what you need. Because I have a need to teach you, that information is coming through. So I feel extremely blessed and grateful for you. And I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being in my life. Thank you for allowing me to stand in front of you every week and to share with you what I know. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, any questions, any comments about this?
I want to return that same gratitude to you, Pierre, and say thank you to you for teaching us, for letting the Spirit use you in a way whereas we are getting something extremely valuable. And if it was not for you, we will not be able to navigate. God knows where we will be in this turbulent time.
Mm.
And I wanna say thank you, and I'm very grateful.
Mm.
Ditto, Pierre.
Yes, Janice. Thank you, Marjorie. I'm sorry, Janice. Yes.
Oh, I just said ditto.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes,
Ditto to what Marjorie said.
yes.
I just want to also do the same. Thank you, Marjorie. Yes, I agree. Well,
Yes.
I think the space here that you create for people and for us to really go deep into the spiritual meaning of our existence and purpose here is it's beyond, you know, it's the best blessing ever.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
We have a lot to be thankful for, ladies.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I deeply appreciate it.
But so do we.
I'm sorry.
I said, so do we. You said you deeply appreciate it. I said, so do we.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Thank you so much. I wanted to also talk a little bit about, because I know a lot of people are at different stages of the grieving process and the loss. And I want to remind you of this because I had a conversation with Marjorie about a friend from her past that came back up and is in town. And she was talking about the fact that this man doesn't want to do anything. He's sleeping, he's in bed, he doesn't want to walk, he doesn't want to do nothing. And she asked him, are you depressed? One of the signs of grief, and he has had a lot of loss. This is somebody that invested, did a move from one country to the next. And then wherever he moved to back in Haiti, it was disastrous and he had to move back with nothing. And, you know, got rid of his 401k to do all of this. And anyway, it's disastrous. Lots of loss. And we talked about the grief and the loss. And one of the stages of grief, Marjorie was describing to me that he said he feels like he's in a, what was it again, Marjorie, that he's in an ocean?
He said he feels like he's in the ocean and that he is swimming and he cannot find the exit yet. He cannot find the direction of where where to go, because he is in that, in other words, he is really trying to survive. And that's how I see it, because he said the exit, I'm not seeing the exit yet. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And the reason I'm saying this is that some of what he's saying, and I'm taking it back to what I'm experiencing this week, it's exactly the same way.
Yes.
This feeling and the sensation that something big is coming in and I'm in the middle of something, but I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out yet. Okay, we're all in the middle of something. There's a certain kind of background. The best way I can describe it is background uncertainty. There's a background uncertainty, and we're all floating in the sea.
Yeah.
And I can't articulate exactly what it is. I'm trying to find tools to find all the, out of my bag of
It's
information.
really the uncertainty. We don't know where we're going to land.
Yes.
And everything that is happening these days, it depends of what the collective decide.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem, it has to do with the collective. And the collective right now is extremely damaged.
Yeah.
And if we can even put it that way, that even the collective is swimming and they don't know where they're going.
All right, there are two things, Marjorie. Thank you for sharing that. Two things. The collective is being manipulated by the archons.
Okay.
Okay, this is the reason why we're all swimming, and this is the reason for the separation and the bifurcation. We are being set up to battle, because when we battle and we go at each other's throat and we go this one against that one, give me my gun, don't give me my gun, do this, and as we're battling and clashing against each other, we don't have the, and the reason we're battling, and the reason, one of the tools that they're using is fear. They're fanning fear in all of us emotionally. It's bad enough that the external event, the global climate change event, all generating fear, the pandemics and generating fear, but they're fanning the fear more by saying it's the Black, it's the Mexican, it's the foreigners, it's this, it's that, the xenophobia, right? Or it's the cabal, the select group of elite that's taking over, that's doing this. Therefore, we should demonize these people and burn them because they're taking all what Julie ours away from us. And then the third part of this equation is that they are making it, they're asking us to go out in the street and start a revolution. So if these three things are true, if you're watching a video, you're reading information, somebody posts something, and they're sharing, or you're having a conversation, and the person is trying, whatever they're saying to you is generating fear. The second item, that's a red flag, if they are blaming or demonizing a person or collective. Third red flag, are they asking you to go out on the street and start revolution or start to combat and battle? If these three things are true, the person, the messenger, is infected by the archon. And the information, whether it's online, is completely contaminated by archon energy. The fear that they're generating is coming from us trying to survive. That fear, and this is the way the archon work, the initial conversation is reasonable and it's triggering to us because it hits a chord of truth. But beyond that, it's how that truth is spun. And if it goes into fear, and the fear is followed up by demonizing a party as responsible, and finally saying, go out in the street, start a revolution, now destroy everything because we got to take over. The moment that happens, you know the archons are there. And they are doing it on both sides of the bifurcation. It's the same collective. Because as long as we're battling and we're trying to survive, we are grounded into the 3D. We're trying to survive, which is the central axis of the 3D world. And since we are holding that peace by being distracted by this external things, we will not see the opportunity to expand, to grow, to evolve, and to be liberated by the higher densities that are passing through and overlapping the very loud experience that they are creating for us. So the true challenge for all of us who are wishers, we are basically the chariot that's going in the field of wheat to create a path. We are the chariot. This is a term that the Kabbalists used to use all the time to describe the people who are the herald and or the front line. And as we are moving to try to create this path, we have to figure out a way to understand that the loud, fearful events, the feeling that I have of being, that we're all having, of being in this turbulent something, but whatever it is, that's something, whatever event is going to happen in 2022, whatever is showing up, it will be a catalyst for me to perceive the bridge and the doorway to the new earth. Let me explain. I think the mistake that I am making often, because we're still mostly in 3D, and that we are all making, we believe that the 5D resemble 3D world with people being kind and being in blessing and being in gratitude and having only positive emotion. I'm not saying that's not what it is. But to all the people who are using their frontal lobe and intellectual capacity, because I know plenty of people who are trying to create a doorway, a bridge to the new earth. I know many groups that are doing this, but they are doing it from an intellectual and mental capacity, trying to discern what a higher density is with the senses and the limitation of 3D. It will never happen. Unless you're going deep, 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 whatever emotion is triggered, if it's uncertainty that's being triggered right now, that sea of uncertainty, go inside of yourself and go really deep. And ask yourself, what is the root cause of this uncertainty in me? And wait for, in other words, whatever you are feeling, use it as a springboard or a catalyst to allow you to go deep within you. Because if it's showing up, the archon, remember, the archon cannot create an emotion. What they can do is that they can inflate anything. They can make it bigger, stronger, they can make it chaotic, they can froth it up. They can do all that very well. And even when they do it to a process called simulacrum. What does simulacrum mean? It means that it's like your real emotion. But when you go deep within and you stand still and you ask, is this 100% mine? You will realize that a lot of it is not yours. That only a small percentage is yours. So the uncertainty is in the background, and whatever that uncertainty is, it belongs to you and me. And we have to own it, and we have to realize if we can go deep into the part that the archons are creating, the simulacrum, we can call Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael and ask them, as per the Book of Enoch, to come in and to extract and purify the archon influence from us, to extract them and to remove this. But to the part that belongs to us, we need to find a way to connect to that uncertainty. Because that uncertainty that's showing up now is still grounding us into the 3D. It is a gift. It's showing in you big, it's because it's a gift. If you can let it go, it will immediately begin to show you an emerging landscape, an emerging sensation, perception, knowing that was not there before, that is actually the horizon and the bridge of 5D or beyond. So the mistake that I'm seeing, like my friend John Peterson and the Undertone Institute, who has a great group, he's been doing all these things for years as a futurist. The mistake I'm seeing them make is that they're focusing with intellectual capacity and mental thing, trying to figure out the bridge as if you stand here on the earth, if you do this, if you move this, blah, 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 somehow the new earth will come to you. When in fact, it's an expansion in consciousness. And unless you're doing these deep emotional work, where you're going in and you're surrendering, and you allow your mind and your consciousness to expand, you're not going to see it. You're going to miss the mark. So it's important for us to kind of refine, and I know I fall into the trap as well, because the experiences are so loud that you begin to think in 3D terms. You know, surviving, what's going on, I need to do this, if this is happening, I need to respond this way, I need to, when in fact, we should be spending more time going internal to find a way to find how that uncertainty, what is the gift that this uncertainty that's in me is trying to teach me? What information that sea of uncertainty is trying to teach, to show me? What knowing is this trying to illuminate for me? And in what way am I co-creating a narrative that keeps holding me grounded in that uncertainty?
Pierre, I have a question.
Yes.
I've noticed lately something that I think is similar to what you described. I think if I remember correctly, you described that you actually saw the actual tree, the 3D fears, like it looked like a tree. I believe you mentioned that you noticed that around January last year or something like that.
Yep.
So I actually saw that clearly last week. Like for the first time, I just saw it, you know, and then I saw that tree. And I'm just wondering if you could refresh my memory, if this has changed how you do these queries that you just described. Was there a slight change, or was there a little different approach in terms of what you're describing right now?
No, it's the same approach, and I'll go over it again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go over it again. So what happened this January just passed now, so I was having these experiences where I was experiencing these fear of survival. And when I noticed the survival, I realized that there was and it was so big, so overwhelming, that I realized that it cannot all be in me. Little me, too small for this to be so big. So the first thing that I did, I queried my energy body, because we can lie to ourselves all the time, but energy doesn't lie. I queried myself and I asked myself, is this coming from me? Is it 100% mine? And the answer was no. And I asked, okay, so what percentage is mine? I think it was around 20%, or I don't remember exactly, 2023. I don't remember exactly the number, but around in the 20s. I said, okay. So to the 80%, I immediately called upon Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, and I asked them to come in and to purge the influence of the Archon that doesn't belong to me out of my body, to extract it, and to cleanse me and to purify me and to remove all influences that are inflating my feelings around this. So it started out as fear, and the fear dropped into, it's a cascade of emotions. So it started first with me perceiving fear, a fear that I couldn't control, that was completely irrational. Then the fear dropped into survival. And I asked the query about the survival. It's split into Archon 80%, Pierre 20%. Then when I was done with this, I went down further into, now I want to own my 20%. This is my opportunity to learn. How does survival show up in me? What are the things in me that I have learned from my environment that are connecting me to the survival matrix, which is the core, the central axis, the giant tree that's holding the 3D reality in place? And immediately there was like a fan that opens up. One aspect is where I grew up in Haiti, where voodoo and all that stuff is like big, and it's a paranoid culture. You can't trust anybody. You're always afraid that somebody's going to put the juju on you, or what you're eating might be tainted with poison. It's a paranoid culture. So there is that part. Then I remember the way I grew up in my family, how my mother, you couldn't go anywhere without her being around. We grew up around her skirt. She was always afraid that some catastrophic thing was going to happen. And she's a single woman raising 4 kids, and she wouldn't be able to protect us. And therefore, you can't go anywhere. Reinforcing the paranoia and the fear and the sense of malevolence. There's malevolence out there. The other part that showed up for me was the epigenetic of my race as a Black man coming from an ancestry that was human trafficked as slave for 400 years. There's a tremendous sense of, again, malevolence in the environment and loss of control. The third part, the fourth and fifth part, was although we ate 3 times a day, there was always food on the table. But there was a lot of conversation in my house by my mother or whoever, adults, my family, grandmother, my aunt, uncle. There's always conversation about money insecurities and food insecurity. Like, are we going to eat? Is there enough food for this? Do we have money for this? There is always that conversation. And all of them showed up at the same time, like a fan. And at that moment, I saw clearly a tree. Survival, and then all of these root systems that extend from it for me with these 5 things in it. And so I felt actually quite overwhelmed. The 20% was immense for me. Because I'm like, if I'm going, particularly, let's think about something like epigenetic of an entire race that have been wrong for 400 years. How do I remove this? How many lifetimes do I have to do this work to be able to extract it? It's a false belief, but if I'm going to let go of the survival and proceed into a state of surrender, of trust into a benevolent and a kind universe, and allow this to become now the new axis that's going to drop into me, I have to let go of all of this. They're all false beliefs. And so it took realizing how big this was for me. I then prayed to God. I asked God to take this cup away from me. Since I energetically, I could see it, I could feel it, I asked God, take all of it and extract it from me. Move it away from me. Now, what was not included in this, I talked about the food insecurity and the money insecurity. Right now, what I'm experiencing is insecurity in general about the future. It's a different kind of insecurity. Does that explain for you, Ursula? Is that clarified for you?
Yes, if I understand this correctly, the tree shows up as like the tree shows up because it's connected to. I guess what I'm trying to say, the query remains the same basically. It's
Yes.
just the visual is different.
Right. The query remains the same, and the query, okay. You have to be very fluid and dynamic with the query. And it cannot be a rigid script, because the way it showed up for me, it may not show up for you the same way.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm giving you this as an example to allow you to see it was a dynamic thing to me. It felt like a natural progression.
Right. So maybe another way to ask also is, what is the significance of actually seeing the tree as opposed to not seeing it before, if there is any?
Well, I think the tree is basically represent all of the multiple tributary false belief that are holding the false belief in survival.
Yes, that I understand that. I was just wondering.
The tree is an archetypical image that's being used as a way to describe it. I'll give you a vision.
I was just wondering if there was any significance, and there may not be, of seeing it so clearly that I didn't see before.
I think it's a question of you being less afraid and being more in surrender.
Right.
I think the tree was always there as it's a visual to allow you to understand, that there are multiple things that are connected to this one living psychic energy.
Right. And did you mention the tree that you saw was That was the one that you connected to as opposed to something else. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, you did not see like the planetary tree. The tree
No,
was
no, no, no. That I was focusing on me.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to extract this thing. You know,
Mhm.
I don't want to connect to the planet right now. There are too many things are going on.
No, yeah, I just want to make sure
Yeah, yeah.
because it's just the wording. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. It's a part of being less afraid and allowing yourself to see more, perhaps.
Yeah.
But potentially could be something evolving down the road as well.
Right.
As we go deeper, maybe it will be something also evolving in some way, right? Where it's maybe down the road, it might have some additional meaning potentially.
It's possible, but for now, I'm interpreting it as a archetypical imagery.
The visual, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Thank you.
Pierre,
Yes.
does it have to be a tree for
It doesn't have to be a
everybody?
tree. Your archetype could your subconscious mind could use
anything.
another image. Yeah. Sometime in the past, I used to see a fan open up, not a tree. So I would get all of these things open up and it would be like a fan opening up around me. So it doesn't have to be a tree.
Yeah, could I ask about something that when you were speaking about the sources of all your uncertainties, epigenetic, physical existence, this physical existence experiences, it all sounded a bit like PTSD. And I'm wondering, in addition to the identifying and asking God to purge you of these areas of entrenched or subconscious or epigenetic patterns of belief of recurrence, is there anything that a psychologist does or a psychiatrist does for PTSD people that could be added to it? I'm not sure what even that would be, but it just strikes me as being similar.
There is several, I don't know how well they work, to be perfectly honest. There is an eye movement thing, I forgot what it's called, that they make you go through the experience again, and there's an eye movement. And there's another treatment that they do with MDMA, which is like a drug that they administer in a hospital setting, and they ask you to go back over the experiences, and it's supposedly tone the experience down for you. There is a third one where they actually shoot, and I know somebody on YouTube who actually did this. It didn't work for him. He had a horrible experiences with his mother, who was a drug addict. The mother would leave to go do drug, and he would beg the mother not to go, and she would go and get all messed up. And then a week later, when she would get back to the house, he would not want to be with her, and then she will try to kill herself in front of him. And this happened over and over again. And he's messed up. He's in a bad shape. Very handsome, very on the look, on the appearance, a model. Everything is the cat's meow. Okay, but he's extremely messed up. And he's open. He's sharing his mental journey. Right now, he's taking gabapentin and some of the medication, because the treatment that he did, it's very expensive, and then they put an injection in some part of your spinal cord where, when your brain is triggered by the PTSD, it's like a drug that numbs it. And supposedly it gives you a resetting. And some people have claimed to have experienced miraculous healing when these experiences come. They don't feel anything. They're okay. It didn't work for them. So I don't know how these techniques actually work or do not work. I've been reading about it because I did also recognize the similarities, but I think what I'm doing actually works better, which is I give it over to God. And I ask God to help me and take this cup away from me.
Pierre, I don't know if this is applicable, but you suggested to me many years ago, and I still use it. Sometimes I use the tapping.
Yes.
But with the tapping, I don't use like the long version. I just use like the short version. So I don't go into like this whole thing and practice, because they have books about it. But just the very basic tapping, like your forehead and around your eye and like your upper heart. I just use that and I find it helpful as well. So that's maybe something to consider.
Yeah, great suggestion. Janice, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. I think that as you were speaking, it seems to me that restoring faith, restoring trust is the big issue. Even if you ask God to remove it from you, if the experience is as intense as this gentleman's that you talked about, or even your own, if that isn't a difficult journey, but then that's all part of trusting, isn't it? That you will. And maybe the thing to also recognize is that it was somehow preparing you, those experiences, for what was going to be important to you as a result of having had them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, and more to the point is that I like what you're saying about trust, and this is the reason why I go into God, because I trust God. That's the only thing that's not going to betray me. That's the only thing that's going to give me a sense of hope. That's the only thing that's going to support me 100% of the time. That's why I'm there. You're totally right.
Yeah.
And as I do this and I go into that space, I surrender, I feel great relief, and things are being extracted from me, things are being removed. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you, God. Thank you so much.
And do you feel that you need to continuously do this, or it's once done, once it's over?
It's not a one-time experience, no. These things go all and too deep. Just imagine epigenetic of an entire race, 400.
Yes.
It's not something that with one sitting that's going to be over. And I suppose these physical therapies, that's probably why they don't really work 100% of the time. It's because of the same reason, is that these things are so old and so deep. It's like once they are triggered, you know, doing a shot in the part of your brain is not enough.
It's a bit also like the AA program in a way, isn't it?
Yes. One day at a time, one crisis at a time. That's correct. And to my mind, as I've said this before, step number 3, which is to give away, realize that your addiction is greater than you, and to surrender it and release it into your higher power, however you conceive it. And ask, humble yourself. And the point of this is that you have to humble yourself and let go of your ego and realize that you need help and ask for the help. And this is huge for us. And this is part of the letting go. And then once you do, the trust, because you can feel a great sense of relief immediately. And then you can feel a benevolence. Again, survival and the insecurity, for me, in my experience, there was always benevolence around the corner. And the opposite exists in the blessed field. What I experience when I go there is benevolence. It's a kind and loving universe.
Well, I think that also fear keeps you from experiencing that trust.
Right. Because this whole experience for me started with a fear that I couldn't control for 3 days.
Mhm.
And then from the fear, it went into survival. And from the survival, all these things open up. And
I like
the reason I experience all this, the sense of like insecurity and all that is because I was trying to control.
Mm.
I was trying to control.
Yeah, that's a big issue, isn't it, for a lot of us?
Yep. And the moment I begin to let go, this is what to do with the surrender and the prayer to your higher power. You let go, you surrender. You say, I cannot control this. This is bigger than me.
Mhm.
I don't have the power, the strength, the know-how. Help me.
And it hasn't worked so far, so why not try something else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Every control I've done has not worked. Let me try this.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I do this, for me, it's a work in progress. Because we're all in 3D and we all exist in a group body. So I am being yanked, even though I may be in that space, but I may have it for a couple of days, maybe a week. I'm going to be yanked by another collective experience, an even louder experience. But each one of them is making me, as I go into the surrender and I release it and I go into the trust, every experience on the outside that's trying to create this in me is taking me one step closer to the bridge. It's inching closer and closer to the bridge. Closer to the bridge.
Thank you, Pia. That's very helpful.
And I think, Janice, that the whole point is that many people I know who are trying to, good-hearted people who are trying to figure out a way to create an environment for the new, or they're creating physical things and they're creating intellectual construct and they're aligning themselves with certain physical thing. And they think that's the only thing that they need to do, but they're not doing that part. I'm not saying that the physical is unnecessary because the world is warping and changing around us physically. We do need to get away from the low-lying areas because there's going to be, the poles are melting. There's bigger storm. We do need to have backups, or resilient, more sustainable way of generating power. We do need all of these physical things, but it's not enough because the fear can still be there while you're in that environment. And more to the point is that if the landscape, if the core and root system, the tree, let's just say, since we're describing it by a tree, and the tree that holds the new earth together is benevolence, as I suspect it is, then I need to walk away from the benevolence, expectation of benevolence that I exist in. And the as difficult as it is for me to navigate this territory that I'm in, if the end goal is to exist in a space where benevolence is everywhere, it's worth it. And I know it's not gonna be just a physical environment. It's gonna be frequency, energetic, and more importantly, it's gonna transform, because if you exist in that kind of space, it's gonna transform you cellularly, it's gonna transform everything about you.
I think it's a good concept, in addition to releasing and surrendering and asking God to remove it from you, the sense of replacing the malevolence with benevolence is a nice thought. There is a sense of a balance then, that there's not an empty hole where sort of the malevolence used to exist is now filled with benevolence.
Yeah. A lot of
love.
A lot of time when I go in the blessed field and I release and I surrender, all I feel around me is benevolence, just goodness. And wouldn't it be nice to exist in a place like this all the time?
Amen.
You know, Pierre, I saw some information on the internet where they talk about how we're not being taught in general, whether it's in school or even science, that the space around us is actually intelligent, and they finding more and more scientific quantum physics proof, if you may, for people who may need proof, that shows that there is intelligence around us,
Mhm.
and it's but it's at the quantum level, so it's not just up there, it's next to you, it's all around you.
Mhm.
And a lot of people talk about how we need to change the conversation and teach people to have that kind of awareness,
Mhm.
that this is not just some talk, you know, and it may be imaginary, that this is a real thing, this is science.
Yeah.
And there is more and more of it's good, it's nice to see where there is more of that, and it's kind of helpful. It was a good reminder for myself as well,
Mhm.
that
But
indeed that exists, and it's and then I found that the rest was a matter of practice too, just doing it.
Mhm.
but what Ursula is talking about, Pierre, isn't it the morphogenic listening?
Yes,
Yes,
it's the blessed field. Yes, that's correct.
exactly. Yeah, morphogen listening, and then, but you know, th- we know of this because Pierre has been teaching us,
Yeah.
but now science, quantum physics, they can actually prove it, that they starting really making a buzz around it on the internet also, that it's an actual physical thing.
Mhm. Beautiful. And I'm more and more. This is, I think that morphogenic field, that benevolence field. This is what the new Earth looks like. It's that radiation, and if we can exist in that space, it will transform us physically. It will transform the whole planet, and it will not look like we think it's going to look.
And it's also,
It-
Pierre,
yes.
just sorry interrupt you, because it's also like a matter of becoming the change, right? And to the and not only the fears, but really we need to become it at the cellular level,
Right.
right? Because I think ultimately, when you were talking about the epigenetics, to truly do it thoroughly, I think you need to do it at the cellular level, right? So that's why you reminded us about the DNA reconstruction as well.
Yeah.
I think you really need to go that deep, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting because if we can allow the landscape, whatever that landscape is, a benevolent landscape that filled with goodness and kindness, and we walk away from always feeling insecurity and being expecting benevolence and bad things to happen, what would that do to our health? What would that do to our aging process? What would that do to the environment that we exist in? What relationship would we have with the environment? What would that do to the interaction that we have with each other? And ultimately, what world would this create? These are important questions. If we can answer them, it might give us a sense of what that future, what that new Earth looks like. Rather than existing that seeing insecurity and feeling always dread, something bad is going to happen, something horrible, and feeling disturbance, again, in the background. And if you're like me, you're very sensitive the background after a while becomes very loud and disruptive. Sometimes it's better to be unconscious because you just repress everything, you don't see it. But to us who are herald and who are there as wishers, it shows up for us faster because we're here to create the path to demonstrate. And that, as Ursula was saying, you have to become the example. You have to demonstrate it to the world by becoming the living example of it. Any other questions or comments?
Well, it just reminded me, I don't know if that's still true, but like you said, you were saying before that the newer, it's not only frequency, but it's also emotion, right?
Yep.
And then it probably will be something more connected to virtue,
Yep.
high emotion, that might become stronger in you, like probably your main virtue might be becoming more it's gonna show up probably as well.
Yep.
Along the way.
Yep. You're totally right. I'm so funny in the preparation for this class. What was coming up for me during my meditation this afternoon was over and over again the higher virtues. You're dead on. It was the higher virtues.
And you know, part of it is also when you're reconnecting with your soul extensions, right?
Yep.
Maybe like the first immediate 12 soul extensions.
Yep.
As you begin working with them closer and become more aware of them, that ultimately, I mean, it's funny because I'm kind of like I feel like I'm more aware of them, and it's not clear to me like as I don't feel it necessarily as a virtue right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it more as a challenge
Mm-hmm.
and something that we're working on. But it's nice because I feel from so far I feel like we're working on it. I feel like we're working on it together. So I think I welcome that. I welcome that. So I don't feel I feel supported and I feel like we support each other.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the higher virtues that we, as a reminder, the 12 higher virtues, the higher emotions, and right now what we know of them is nothing more than a mental ideation or an intellectual derivation of what these things actually mean. We don't have a visceral experience of what these emotions actually really mean. So you have peace, love, mastery, control, obedience, wisdom, harmony, gratitude, justice, reality, vision, and victory. And each one of the 12 Christed over self bodies that are around us exists in one of these emotions. So the point of the cultivation of a higher virtue is for these part of ourselves, as you connect to them, ask them, if I were at peace, what would I feel in my body? And you wait for that to show up for you. Show me the peace that you know. or show me the gratitude that you know, or show me the victory that you know. And as you do this on a daily basis, over time, these emotions, one of them will begin to get closer and closer to you, will feel energetically something getting closer, and it will eventually extract and show up in you as a almost so visceral and so powerful, it would feel like you're having an orgasm with gratitude or peace or victory. And when that happens, you're now remembering what that higher virtue is really like. And with that richness in awareness and emotional and spiritual intelligence, you will become more and more connected or self-aware of the, what's the word I'm trying to use? I'm going to find. You will become, the Tibetan Book of the Dead talk about the fact that for most human beings on the planet, what we are is a mental body of a conscious tendency on emptiness. We're just a body of unconscious tendency. We're not conscious at all. We're sleepwalking. And everything is really in the universe is empty anyway. It's your consciousness that's creating the illusion of everything that we're experiencing. So we're just an unconscious body, unconscious tendency floating in emptiness. And the benevolence and the kindness, that's the emptiness. So what we're trying, once you have reassemble yourself emotionally with those 12 higher emotions, you will begin to experience conscious immortality. You will become a conscious body in emptiness. And this is where enlightenment occurs. In Buddhism, there's a whole practice on higher virtue as well to accomplish the same thing. Any questions, any comments? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do the closing meditation on the back end. 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your head and your heart sync with each other. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And realize that you can perceive 360 degrees. Without judgments. Notice what you notice. What sensations? Perceptions. And knowing is this creating in you? Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your awareness be sensitized but by what may exist in the background of your psyche. Become aware of whatever feelings that you're existing in. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. What am I feeling? Is it one feeling? Or a combination? Of multiple feelings? What's the first feeling? What is the second feeling? Are there any other feelings? Is this 100% mine? What percentage belong to me? I now call for the Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. I ask them to move through my entire four-body system and to remove all archon manipulation, influence, and emotional inflation, and to purge them from all of my bodies. In what ways? does this emotion is grounded in me? Show me all the contributing branches of this emotion. The truth will set me free. Show me all the related branches, the tributary feeds of this false belief. What am I not seeing? Show me all the related emotions that contribute to this false belief. Dear Lord, take this cup away from me. I humbly ask you to remove this entire network of false belief that are toxifying my experience on this planet. Now take a very deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move counterclockwise to the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging this entire network, and let it be released as you exhale outside of your head and empty your breath out completely from your lungs and let go. Let go of everything. It is not your responsibility to control, do, repair, or change anything. Take another breath from the core of the earth. And let this breath move through the bottom of your feet counterclockwise, moving through the bottom of your feet, dislodging this entire network. And as you exhale all of it outside of your head, release all of it and let go into the blessed field. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging this entire network and releasing all of it as you exhale outside of your head, letting go of all of it. Now let the blessed field, infinity times infinity, surround you with goodness, kindness, and benevolence. And let the energy of the benefactor pour into you. And let this benevolence, as you inhale from source, begin to spin clockwise, penetrating the top of your head, passing through your body, and ground into the bottom of your feet. And let your entire being and consciousness reside in this benevolence. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. How you all feeling?
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome, Janice. You're welcome. Before we close, I want to say a happy Thanksgiving to all of you. My deepest love and care in the intention that you're giving this work and the benefit that I'm deriving from your co-creation. I love you all, and I'll talk to you next Sunday. Blessings to all. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you, Pierre.
Blessings.
Same to you.
Thank you, Annie. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Same to you.